My name is Anthony Kalimungabo Wako, a lecturer in architecture at the Faculty of the Built Environment at Uganda Martyrs University. Thank you, Mohammad, Gharipour, Jessica Bowers, and the entire team at UMD Global Campus, and also the Epidemic Urbanism Initiative team for organizing this lecture series, and for the opportunity to present this work that in turn informs my continuous research endeavors and my teaching at the Faculty of the Built Environment over the last couple of years. From this study on healing environments and how they are perceived in the context of Uganda, we shall look at some opportunities, some missed and some utilized for design, planning, and public health. I pose a couple of questions for us to ponder and reflect on as we discuss healing environments. These are understood differently by people from different contexts and by how much their cultures cross. I hope that by the end of this discussion, we are able to appreciate what these are. A healing environment encapsulates those that have a nurturing and therapeutic effect, from our homes to hospitals, and studies show that well-designed hospital environments can reduce patients' anxiety and stress and also accelerate recovery. Therefore, we can learn from our environments. And what is this that we can learn from them? They can shorten hospitalization and reduce medication use. Therefore, what can we learn from the past and retrieve what we thought was the right approach to understanding healthy environments? Also, within the context of Uganda, what can we learn from traditional healing environments? The context here for this discussion is in Uganda, located in Eastern Africa, and experiences a tropical environment. Again, of key interest to this discussion and also within the area of my research on historical aspects and built environments are three cities. Fort Portal in Uganda, in Western Uganda. The next one is Jinja in Eastern Uganda. The other is Kampala, the capital in Central Uganda. All three cities have unique historical aspects within colonial narratives. Some historical aspects are come into play while offering lessons to draw from. From a planning perspective, the influence of health-related policies on urban space was dissected within the layers of urban planning. Increased trade activities within growing urban areas during the 20th century led to health concerns associated with congestion and overcrowding in these urban areas. Hence, the colonial administration turned to the medical profession for advice, for town planning, and also to ensure that these places had healthy environments. Town planners had to deal with well-being of the urbanites and migrants into the urban areas. A green cordon sanitaire was placed to separate racial groups, as well as was the case in Fort Portal, and also in Kampala and in Jinja. Throughout colonies of the British Empire, recommendations based on health concerns acquired dominance over urban landscapes, and from about 1880 to 1940s, that was a period in which all this happened. Kampala and Fort Portal's green spaces were later actually transformed into golf courses, while the Jinja one was actually watered down and built over due to strong Asian influence that community had on the urban space. From the late 19th century, Kampala healing environment emerged, and this was Luke and Catherine Ward's introduced Western medicine and medical practices in Uganda and East Africa. This was pioneered by Dr. Cook in 1896. The wards in Mengo Hospital are significant in demonstrating the society's expression of preservation and mark the transition to Western medicine. From under the tree treatment space in 1896 to the building constructed using local materials as is shown on the image on the screen, and then to finally something that was more permanent. Dr. Cook introduced the first clinic under a tree that I suspect was cut down, where he treated about 50 patients a day, making him the first English doctor to treat Ugandans. He and his wife, Catherine Timson, used a camp as an operating table, and also two kings of the Buganda kingdom. By the way, this is the kingdom from which the country Uganda derives its name. The two kings were Daudi Chwa and Mutesa II, were actually born under Dr. Cook's watch. It was named Mengo Hospital after the king's royal enclosure nearby, and initially had about 12 wooden beds and straw mattresses. Today, we witness various healing environments under the category of hospitals that have developed across the country. I also want to state that most hospitals, especially in rural areas, lack enough doctors, medicine and equipment. And here, the Mount Sinai Chavira Surgical Ambulatory Facility by Clement Holzborn Architects is located in Jinja, Uganda, and takes inspiration from the banana fiber or the banana plantain for its design. Banana plants are very common in some parts of Uganda. The architects put together as a thesis that the plant gathers sun and provides shade for the ground below as the natural function of solar panels. They thought of solar panels as leaves of banana plants gathering sun and providing shade. Also, an observation from the project theme is that because the banana leaf is used as a dressing on wounds like cuts, burns, and blisters and helps heal wounds faster, an interpretation of the banana plant in designing the interior spaces would have actually made this project a lot richer. And I guess that was a missed opportunity. The banana plant inspiration is in my view, is actually not visible in the interior spaces, as you can see in the top right corner image of the waiting lobby. In addition, the choice of materials could have been reflective of the design idea and maybe a healing environment in that regard. However, the project has its merits considering what the architect or where the architect is based in New York. The architect actually had to immerse themselves in a new culture. So for the students that are listening in on this call, you should remember that you might be forced to take on projects or work that is outside your comfort and familiar territory. So I pose a question to you: how are you actually preparing yourselves towards facing such challenges and situations? While healthcare has primarily focused on fixing the body, there is a growing recognition that our health care system could do more by promoting overall wellness, and this requires expanding the focus to healing. By breaking the concept of healing into antecedent components: emotional, psychological, social, behavioral, and functional, to identify how these healthcare spaces can actually foster healing. I think this has to be broken down in that regard. The environmental variables found to directly affect or facilitate one or more dimensions of healing include a home-like environment, access to views, nature, light, noise control, barrier-free environments, and room layouts. As the Children's Surgical Hospital in Entebbe, Uganda, attempts to do in the image shown. Healing spaces evoke a sense of cohesion of the mind, body, and spirit. They support healing intention and foster healing as well. So this was actually designed by Renzo Piano Building Workshop, RPBW. The hospital uses the ancient technique of rammed earth, and a photovoltaic roof floats over the building, similar to the surgical ambulatory facility mentioned earlier, located in Jinja. Now, this children's hospital in Entebbe has 72 beds and 3 operating theaters. This is an attempt at healing environments or healing architecture with a challenge to combine surgery and architecture in both projects, I would say. So these are two disciplines that on the surface do not have much in common. The concept of healing architecture is, according to the architect Renzo Piano, very simple. Beauty is not just an aesthetic choice. It is part of treatment, as quoted in the conversation with him. It can be a physical and mental effect on it. It can be and can have actually physical and mental effect on patients, and so it plays a part in healthcare environments. On the subject, I quote this from Spirit and Place by Christopher Day, one of my favorite authors on this particular subject matter, healing environments. And the other is Places of the Soul, Architecture and Environmental Design as a Healing Art. Whether you are an architecture student or not, I encourage you to read these books. They will help you understand what matters about healing within the built environment, the health-giving intent, and the process of building within such environments. Okay. So, the previous books, in a way, set the foundation for a design research project for a student, Anne Murungi, at the faculty for her ongoing master's thesis. Anne's research delves into the lessons we can learn from traditional healers and derives the principles from such spaces, offering valuable insights for integrating elements into contemporary design aimed at enhancing well-being. One of the key tasks was to actually visit 7 traditional healers. Now, these are either herbalists, spiritual diviners, or both. She had to learn from them without prejudice. Otherwise, she would have missed the big picture. She had to conduct and document some of the rituals within their healing spaces. For example, no shoes before entering a healing hut, which spaces needed more light, what diseases were addressed or being treated, as indicated comprehensively in this particular table. Anne was not allowed to take photographs, so she had to measure the spaces and draw. 2 key factors are observed. First is the social well-being takes precedent in traditional healing spaces, with social activities at the center of the rituals and the healing activities and spatial organization. Secondly, the profound integration of nature is of great importance to well-being in traditional healing. The 4 elements of nature, air, water, fire, and earth, are seamlessly incorporated into the design of these spaces. Outdoor settings dominate ceremonies, social interaction, and everyday activities. Water emerges as a significant element in retreat and meditation spaces, influencing experiences through visual, auditory, and immersive interactions. Fireplaces contribute to both social and healing areas, while natural materials like thatch, soil, timber, and bamboo establish a ground connection to the earth. The study suggests that these principles derived from traditional healing practices offer valuable insights for integrating elements into contemporary designs aimed at enhancing well-being. Many spiritual healers and herbalists are knowledgeable, but it is almost impossible to know how they know what the things they do, and this may turn into a health hazard. Many of the herbalists consent to not having logical or scientific explanations for most of their practices. Many believe that disease does not respond to the right explanation, but the right medicine. Hence, the intervention by the state to include research facilities on traditional medicine, and also to include a regulatory body for all to be registered. Some healers and neoliberalists, however, have misused the objectives of the community values and turned it into this whole thing into witchcraft, characterized by human sacrifice, money extortion, and various atrocities. Healing landscapes. Uganda boasts of at least 7 major hot springs, mainly found in western Uganda. The water is hot due to the geothermal activities underground. They are believed to be magical. And some locals believe that these hot springs have divine healing powers from the gods to perform miracles. A scientific explanation would be that the elevated levels of sulfur in hot springs would offer antifungal and antibacterial properties that can soothe and even help heal the skin. Now, the soakers, as you can see in the image enjoy reduced stress levels as you can imagine what they are doing in this particular hot spring called Kitagata Hot Springs in Western Uganda. The many minerals in hot spring water can help decrease daily stress. I was also inspired by Inspiration's World of Vision Limited because of the approach to beauty and wellness that they took. First, while they adopted a building to accommodate the functions of a salon, they integrated the food and medicine garden for some of their spices to be used in the various treatments and also in the restaurants as to contribute to the delicacies. This is under construction, and I look forward to visiting the completed project again later in the year to assess how it has actually achieved its goals. Our response to the call to submit the 2023 EUI design competition involved, in addition to the competition brief, reading and comprehending the healing aspects of architecture, including salutogenic and spiritual considerations and background context of the site. This informed the framework within which the students systematically developed schemes for the two categories that led to the design proposals. Also, the site selected was located near a grade 3 hospital in Nkozi. This is in a rural setting and outside the main university campus. This we thought would help the students identify what was missing in the hospital and what would be complemented by the trading center or the town outside the university. The project also took an existing student hostel building to be adopted into new use, since the hostel has had low occupancy for the last 5 years or so. A couple of interesting proposals came out of this, such as exploring healing landscapes and the poetics of nature, the fine minds. Do-it-yourself emergency center, Chikole, that engages the community in a construction method that is overlooked and not often considered. A clinic proposal that targets vulnerable women and weaves them into their daily lifestyles. In all these proposals, we looked at the opportunities of using a neglected site, transforming it into an invigorating environment, and planting seeds of ideas into communities as ways of achieving well-being. The Manifesto for Climate Responsive Design was an important document as a guide for the previous design exercises or the design projects that you saw from the previous slides. The 10 principles were the basis for the use on the various proposals. The impact of these interlinked crises varies across different parts of the world, but affects how we and how actually they develop the built environment. This particular publication looks at the future direction of architecture in East Africa and how it will respond to the environmental crisis we face. Therefore, we cannot heal ourselves if we are not healing the environment. While healing environments range from homes to hospitals, they also include learning spaces. That's why I have shared this image of one of my favorite spots or spaces at Uganda Martyrs University campus in Nkozi. I used to recline and retreat to this place when the stress of architecture school got too much, and it often helped. And right next to it is a Ross Langdon Health Education Center in Rakai, designed by Studio FH Architects. Ross was an Australian architect who, together with his wife and unborn child, died in the Westgate shooting in Nairobi in 2013. This center is, in a way, a form of spiritual healing for the client, Cotton Foundation, and in a way, a memorial towards students of health to highlight that healing starts within. Listen Without Prejudice is a publication by Mark Olwen that takes a studio as a discursive environment to help students learn. Learning how to learn is essential in education, and it is something that we have to embrace, to leave our egos at the door before designing what we understand as healing environments. The other is understanding participatory processes, as was the case when our students participated in the joint workshop with the University of Rwanda, University of Nairobi, and the Summit International Institute Architecture Schools in 2023. A key theme that stood out and is relevant in this discussion is developing homegrown solutions. I will conclude with this, one of my favorite, the Sankofa, which is an arcane principle that philosophizes that in order to move forward and build a future, one must look into the past to retrieve that which is at risk of being left behind or forgotten. If we understand how people in the past dealt with basic healing techniques, then we are in a better position not to reinvent the wheel and learn from them and probably have better healing environments. So on that note, I'd like to thank you for listening in, and I hope you learned something, and I will invite questions at this particular moment. Thank you very much.